Welcome to Geological Shop Talk. In this podcast, we bring you roughly 20 to 25 minutes of practical clinical methods, perspectives, and advice that has its work boots on. Listen in for clinical gems that you can begin to investigate the next time that you walk into clinic. Additionally, visit the show notes page for supporting materials from this week's guest on Shop Talk. All right, friends, roll up your sleeves. Let's get to work. This episode of Shop Talk is brought to you by LASA OMS, your clinic's partner in wellness. Later in the show, listen for a special offer from LASA to help you with all the transitions your patients face. The information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult a qualified licensed healthcare professional before making any decisions about your health or treatment. The host and guests are not responsible for any actions taken based on the content of this podcast. I'm Michael Max, and today I want to share some thoughts with you here on Shop Talk about practice and being a practitioner. I want to share with you a Chinese character that has had a big impact on my practice and really beyond that, my life, because it's so fundamental to what we are as humans and how it interweaves into our relationships with others. The character is Ting. Ting, first tone. Ting, kind of sounds like a bell ringing. Ting. Ting means listen. In modern simplified Chinese, it depicts a mouth to an ear, but in the traditional form, Ting is made up of the characters for ear, eyes, heart, along with the character Wang, which translates as king or sovereign. And then up at the very top, there's this little cross at the top, which I've come to see as a representation of the intersection of Shen-Tian and Ho-Tian, pre and post heaven, which is to say, the present moment, the right here and now. That's Ting. That's what's involved with listening. I suspect you find it makes sense that listening, really listening, indeed is a multisensory experience. After all, most people can read body language and tone of voice with fairly accurate sense of acuity. Maybe you've had the experience with listening for what's not being said, especially if you grew up in certain kinds of families. That's also a kind of attending to the moment and all that we might find in it. It's also an important kind of listening. One of the reasons I often consider and lean on Ting is that it reminds me to pay attention with all of my senses, including the odd bit of synesthesia where more than one sense combines with another. You get what feels like flashes of intuition or penetrating insight as several senses commingle together. Something else kind of comes through in your awareness. I'm starting off with this little riff on listening because what I really want to talk about here today is the how we are in clinic. Not the what we know, although, of course, you have to have a good toolkit. I'm more interested in exploring the how you are rather than the what you know. Something that is helpful, especially when people say that they're better, is to find out how they're better. It's a wasted opportunity if you nod and pat yourself on the back for a job well done. You need to confirm that the patient is better, and more importantly, in what ways are they better? All the knowing and skill, that's important stuff, but listening and inquiry, that's what guides the what we do. Something that is helpful, especially when people say that they're better, is to find out how they're better. I really see it as a wasted opportunity if you simply nod and pat yourself on the back for a job well done. It's important to confirm that it's true that the patient is better, and more importantly, in what ways are they better? So when asking about digestion or sleep and they say fine, it's important to find out what fine actually means. When they say they are good or the condition that they came in for is better, unpack that. Better in what way? How do they know they're better? what does good actually look like for them? Patients are often surprised when you ask them how they know they're better. Pay attention to what they have to say. Now, sometimes people get better, but they have a story about why they're better that might catch you off guard, and it might even make you angry. Sometimes our patients will attribute their getting better to their chiropractor or a physical therapist or maybe some drink that their cousin recommended. I found it's helpful not to argue, and don't try to suggest that acupuncture was the source of their relief. Instead, ask more questions about the change and see if it might be related to what you did. Our patients, they have their own story, and your story is that acupuncture is very effective, but that might not be your patient's story. What's more, it's not our job to educate them. It's our job to listen, to follow, to understand the patient from their own point of view. I think you'll get further with them if you do this. If you correct them in their perspective, they may be polite in the moment, but they're not going to be so forthcoming in the future. And notice, too, if your ego is wanting to pipe up and have some credit for the patient's healing. Remember, our patients are the ones who heal themselves, even if they want to give the credit to somebody else. So, back to that character Ting. Listening. Listening also means using your eyes. Notice how your patients move, how they get on or off the table, how they walk in your door, how they get up from sitting. Notice what your eyes tell you and what the patient tells you when you ask them about things that you can readily observe. Lots of times, people are very out of touch with their experience. Other times, they will tell you things because they want you to feel good. So, trust your eyes. Now, that all-important portion of the character Ting, the heart, it brings up this question for me. How are you with heartbreak? This one is slippery, and I think it is essential to being able to do this work in any kind of long, ongoing way without hardening the heart. I know for myself that I want to feel like I'm capable and that I'm helpful. I like seeing patients get better and live better lives, and I like the feeling of being intelligent, capable, and effective practitioner. But I think it's important to be cautious about this because it's all too easy to put unspoken demands on our patients so that we can feel good about ourselves. For me, this shows up when I complain to myself about the patient being non-compliant, or I blame their diet, or maybe the amount of cola they drink, or how they overexert themselves, and that all this is the reasons that they're not getting better. I notice how my heart sinks a bit when I hear that there's been no change in the reason that they first walked into my office 3 or 4 treatments ago. It's very hard not to take this personally. I don't think I'm alone in this. Check in with yourself. Check in right now. If your patients are not getting better in some marked way, how do you end up feeling about yourself? If you completely don't care, you might be a little short on compassion. If you care a lot and are enslaved to how the patients feel about the treatment and you, well, then you're enmeshed in a way that has you looking to the patient for confirmation that you're an okay person. That's both unfair to the patient, and it leaves you, as the practitioner, without the necessary distance that's also required to be an effective helper. This is where some cultivated indifference, some empathetic non-attachment to results is very helpful. I first got this idea in a conversation with Damo Mitchell. That was over in episode 290. I think it was in part 2. This doesn't mean that you don't care. It means that your sense of self-worth and feelings about who you are as a practitioner are not dependent on the progress or not of your patients. It's a bit like having the heart and mind of a true scientist. You know, real scientists are as happy to get a yes as a no. They're looking to discover if their hypothesis holds water or not. There's no such thing as failure when you're a scientist. There's just gathering information. It's not about being cold-hearted so much as it is being able to be stable with your heart. There's a line that I've heard from the Upanishads. I can't remember who quoted it, but I run into it from time to time. It says something to the effect of, we are entitled to our labor, but not to the fruits of our labor. To neither consider ourselves to be the cause of the results of our activities, nor be attached to inaction. Yeah, that's a tall order, and I think helpful in the how we are in clinic. And this is what I'm getting at when I think of bringing some indifference to the outcome of our treatments. It's so that we have some breathing room, so that we can inquire into what else might be going on for the patient, as well as to keep our ego from getting too entangled into the healing enterprise. I've got one more thing I want to say about the how of clinical work. It's very much a yin-yang proposition. We get the joy of being with people as they change and their situation improves, but there are many times when we're invited to accompany them into the downturns, into the cancers no longer in remission, through the miscarriages and the disappointments that arise when our treatments fail. As much joy as you might feel when there's good news, so too there will be times of heartbreak. There's a kind of burden that goes with being a practitioner, and it's worth being on good speaking terms with that sense of burden. I've found it can be a trusted advisor. Well, I hope you found this little rumination on Ting and the how we are in clinic to be helpful and perhaps investigating the next time that you go to work. I'm in the process of putting together an 8-week exploration on the art of listening in practice. We'll be covering the material that I spoke about here, along with the 3 big shadow aspects of our work. Those would be money, power, and authority. We'll take a look at our values and how we're bringing them into our work, or not, along with an exploration of the path that has brought you to the healing enterprise, because usually there are some troubles that got us to where we are, and those troubles, along with the how we've grown through them or not, that can have a pretty big impact on our clinical work. Finally, we'll take a look at our practice of practice, the business models and practices that support the work that you do. If this sounds inviting to you, then email me at together@qiological.com. Let me know about your interest. I'll get you on the mailing list and keep you posted as we get close to opening up registration. When you're looking for herbs, tools, and supplies to guide your patients through life's transitions, you need quality you can trust. Lhasa OMS offers an unmatched selection of acupuncture needles for every style, herbs from all your favorite manufacturers, and everything else you need to run your clinic with confidence. Visit LhasaOMS.com to source the herbs and other supplies featured in this series. Use the code FERTILE15 for 15% off your next purchase at LhasaOMS.com. Some exclusions apply. See website for details. That's it for this episode of Shop Talk. Did you learn something that brought a patient to mind? Don't keep a good thing to yourself. Share it with a friend. They'll be happy that you did. And tune in again for our next episode of Shop Talk.